Welcome to the 5th annual N Festival, a place where enthusiasts gather together to celebrate Hyundai's performance brand. This year it's at Sydney Motorsport Park with a record turnout, so we're going to have a quick look around, say hello to some people and most importantly, drive some fast Hyundais. The N Festival started at Wakefield Park in 2019 and has since visited Queensland Raceway, Winton in Victoria and the Bend in South Australia. It's gotten bigger each time, and this year almost 500 cars and more than 1,500 people signed up to be a part of it. There is plenty going on here. We've had a show and shine, engineering talks, hot laps with pro drivers, as well as previews of future models like the IONIQ 5N you see behind me, which hopefully will drive very soon. But the main draw card is the on-track action, the ability to drive these N models in the environment for which they were designed, and I'll get to that in a moment. But before then, let's have a quick word with someone quite important. With me is newly crowned 2023 TCR champion Josh Buchan, who's attended all the N festivals as a pro driver. So Josh, how does the latest version stack up to the ones beforehand?
Mate, it gets bigger and better every year. I remember the very first event at Wakefield Park. I think we were wrapped to have about 75 cars. We just took a photo on the main straight with over 300 vehicles. So it's been amazing. The journey up to this point as well has been fantastic. The owners, the enthusiasts as we call them, there's no one else like them. It's such an amazing event. Selfishly, I just get to do laps in cars all day. So mate, I can't complain.
There are 3 models for us to drive here today. The i30N Sedan, i30N Hatch and i20N. So I'll drive each in turn, tell you what's good and bad and how they each differ. So let's get stuck in. Okay, so like I mentioned, we'll start in the i20N, the lowest rung on the N performance ladder. So before we really get stuck in, one of the hallmarks of the N range is configurability. And even in this model, I've got a few toys to play with. So I've got 3 settings for the engine. I've got that in Sport Plus. I've got 3 settings for the steering. I've got that in normal because otherwise I just get a heap of extra weight and no real extra feel. It just makes the car a bit harder to drive. I've got 3 settings for rev matching. I've got that off because I'm stubborn and want to do it myself. 3 for exhaust, I've got that in Sport Plus, and 3 for ESP, and I've got that off too because it's a dry day and there's plenty of grip out here. So this might be the lowest rung on the N performance ladder, but this is still a mega car. I should probably quickly run you through the specs. It's 1.6 litre turbo, 150 kilowatts, 6-speed manual of course, front wheel drive, passive suspension, non-adaptive dampers, bigger brakes, but it's that lightness that's really the key. Got stiff suspension, but it still breathes with the road, and by that I mean you go over some of these bumps and it doesn't sort of bounce you or jolt you, it just soaks them all up very nicely, keeps the car under control. The car sort of subtly moves around on its suspension and effectively does exactly what you want. It's kind of an old school hot hatch. It's got the tech in it, but it's old school in the sense of manual gearbox, decent amount of grunt, playful chassis, you can move it around. It's just a mega fun car. Especially if you wanted to get into doing track days, you couldn't find too many better machines than this. Like the Fiesta ST is also fantastic fun, even though they don't sell it anymore, but that car's Achilles heel was its brakes. You couldn't take it on a track day, you run out of brakes in a couple of laps. This, you can drive it, drive it, drive it, and it just laps it up. The one weakness of the i20N, the one shortcoming, is the engine. good torque, it's pretty responsive, sounds okay, but this chassis could use more grunt. I'd love to see what one of these would be like with the i30N's 2 litre in it, because it would be quite something. It would be an absolute rocket ship. Got a wet track there, but as it is, come on, rev, we're going okay, but then above 6,000 RPM we don't really get a whole lot of power. You spend a lot of the lap with your foot welded to the floor. You don't really need to worry about traction per se. Sort of in third gear, just put your foot to the ground and off you go. Great car, fantastic car actually, but could use more grunt. Alright, so now I'm in the i30 N Sedan, or i30 Sedan N, I can never remember which way around it goes, but all different. First things first, I've got a flappy paddle dual clutch gearbox, and I've got a few more toys to play with. I've got an ELSD, 2 settings for that. I've got it in Sport, I've got adaptive dampers, got them in Sport Plus because I'm on a racetrack, and got transmission Sport Plus, but I've just got that in manual. So, let's see how this shapes up in comparison to the i20N. Thing is, it's got much shorter gearing, obviously being a 7-speed rather than a 6-speed manual in the i20, and obviously have more power as well. I'm using totally different gears. 4th where it was 3rd, 3rd where it was 2nd, and we need to go up the gears much earlier. And obviously there's also a heap more power. Since they did the update in this car, a couple of years ago now, this 2 litre is just so potent. It's got so much grunt, and it just keeps pulling. Now, I was talking about in the i20N, whereas the engine's a little bit soft, you know, once it gets above 6,000 RPM, you haven't really got much to play with. In this, it has more than enough grunt. And out of the tight corners, it absolutely pulls like a train. A little bit of a jolt on the upshifts, which is kind of nice. Now in some ways there's definitely a familial similarity between the two cars. Steering weight and that sort of same compliance I was talking about, the way that doesn't fight the road. Even though I've got the dampers in Sport Plus, we go through these mid-corner bumps, the car doesn't hop or fight the road, it just hops along, all 4 wheels in contact with the ground, and that gives you more confidence. But one of the big things about the Sedan i30N is it's lively. This is like a lift-off oversteer hero. I don't know if it's different settings. I don't know if it's different settings or just the fact that there's more weight over the boot, but it oversteers like a madman. Because it's not a hot hatch, I'm going to assume it doesn't sell in anything like the same numbers, but this thing is so much fun. It's so playful. This thing is so expertly judged and engineered and set up. I don't know if I've actually ever driven one of these on a track. And more's the pity, because this thing is so much fun. otherwise someone will yell at me. This thing is a real surprise packet though. I've driven this before, but like I said, I don't think I've driven it on track, and it is absolutely awesome, awesome fun. And now for the car that started it all, the i30 N hatch. Started this whole N journey. It was the car that I guess captured the imagination of various people and got the N Festival to where it is today with, you know, almost 500 cars. So settings are as per the sedan, the diff, the suspension, the transmission, etc, etc. This one is dual clutch. You can also get a 6-speed manual, of course. And unsurprisingly, the two cars feel very, very similar. Now, I had a long term of the first generation i30N and absolutely loved it. It was so good. It was good on track, it was great on road, you could daily it, no problems. But this updated version really is even better. The engine is so much stronger. Stronger in the mid-range, it revs harder, it's got more outright power. It is one of the best 4-cylinder engines you will absolutely ever find in any car. Turn 1 is fast, 180 on the exit. Bit squirrely under brakes. Oh, we get that lovely rear end adjustability still. It's a perfect example of, I thought I overcooked it, but you can still get to the apex and then it just rotates around. You're like, oh, I'm pointing in the right direction for the corner exit. That's what makes this thing so engaging and so enjoyable to drive on road or track. Sorry, just negotiating some traffic there. It's maybe not quite as adjustable as the sedan, and I think it actually feels a bit firmer. It's kind of jumping over bumps a little bit more rather than just you know, absorbing them, but the rear end still comes around beautifully when you need it to. Again, we've now got the power that you have to be a little bit careful on corner exit, but even in third gear out of these tight corners, it absolutely hammers. If you want one of these, there's no reason not to buy one. They're fantastic. I know that sounds, you know, sycophantic because I'm at the Hyundai N Festival, but part of the reason I wanted to come to this thing is that these cars are so much fun to drive. Your really only choice then is auto or manual. And that's hard too, because the manual is excellent. Again, with the facelift they upgraded, the shift became more accurate. It became a bit lighter, but this dual clutch equally is really, really slick. Probably, you know, it's almost Porsche-like in the way it responds and the speed of the shifts. So, if I had to drive one of these cars, 3 I've driven today, the i20 N, the i30 Sedan N or the i30 N, which would I take? I think I would take the i30 N, but I think today on track the most fun has been that sedan. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tour, this look at what the Hyundai N Festival is all about, and we'll see where they hold it next year. But if you're an N owner or interested in being one, get along and check it out. One last treat. This is another i30 Sedan N, but instead of being on the regular road tyres, it's on Pirelli P0 Trofeos, which are like a road legal semi-slick track tyre. And it really brings this car alive. Road tyres, even really good ones, struggle with track work. They get hot, they start to squirm around. Whereas these are built for track work. Obviously when they're cold, we're still building temp here. When they're cold, we're still building temp here. They can be a bit dicey, but they remain so much more consistent. They got so much more traction in the standard car. Getting on the throttle hard there would bring the nose wide, but this just bites into the tarmac and gives you so much more confidence, and it actually just makes the chassis that was already fantastic in the standard i30 Sedan N even better. If you're going to track your i30 N, Sedan N, i20 N, consider getting another set of wheels and a proper set of tyres, because it is fantastic. These tyres just give you so much more confidence to push. You can just carry so much speed everywhere. Yet it doesn't change the adjustability of the chassis. If anything, it brings it alive even further. You've got more grip at the front, so you can adjust the car and lean on it. This is about as much fun as you can possibly have on track. A little bit of a brake, let's carry lots of speed in. Then hard on the throttle again, 180 now through the turn one. What an absolute blast. What a perfect way to end what has been a pretty awesome day. Doesn't get much better than this. An awesome racetrack and a pretty cool selection of cars to play with. So, who knows where it will be next year, but if you're a Hyundai N owner or thinking about being one, come and check out the N Festival. No doubt it will be even bigger and better next year. And if you've got an N, take it on track. You'll absolutely love it. This is what these things were designed to do, and they do it brilliantly.